Welcome to Inspire the Vision, where we explore the stories shaping our world. Today we'll dive deep into one of the most critical geopolitical struggles of our time, Russia's interest in Ukraine. Why does this conflict matter so much, and what drives Russia's actions? Stay with us as we unravel the layers of history, power, and ambition behind this complex issue. To understand why Russia wants Ukraine, we must first go back in time. Imagine a world over 1,000 years ago. The land we now call Ukraine was once the heart of Kievan Rus, a medieval state that gave birth to both Russian and Ukrainian cultures. It's the birthplace of their shared history, a time when the two peoples were united under one powerful kingdom. For Russia, Ukraine is not just a neighboring country, it's a cradle of its own civilization, a place intertwined with its identity. But as centuries passed, that unity fractured. Ukraine was pulled into the orbit of different empires, Polish, Lithuanian, Austrian, while Russia grew into a vast empire of its own. Yet, despite the separation, Russia never truly let go of the belief that Ukraine was an essential part of its sphere of influence. Fast forward to the 20th century. After World War I and the fall of the Russian Empire, Ukraine briefly tasted independence. But it was short-lived. By the 1920s, Ukraine was absorbed into the Soviet Union, becoming one of its most important republics. Under Soviet rule, Ukraine's resources, land, and people were vital to the strength of the USSR. However, something changed in 1991. The Soviet Union collapsed, and Ukraine declared independence. For many Ukrainians, this was a moment of liberation, a chance to forge their own destiny. But for Russia, it was a painful loss. Losing Ukraine meant more than just losing land. It meant losing access to a crucial buffer zone, economic assets, and a key part of Russia's cultural and historical narrative. Let's zoom in on geography for a moment. Ukraine sits at the crossroads between East and West. It's a large country with fertile plains, critical for agriculture. It also hosts pipelines that transport Russian natural gas to Europe. And perhaps most significantly, it borders the Black Sea, providing access to key maritime routes. Now imagine this from Russia's perspective. Without Ukraine, its western border feels vulnerable. It loses a strategic buffer between itself and NATO, a military alliance that Russia views as a direct threat. To Russian leaders, keeping Ukraine under its influence is about more than pride, it's about security. In 2014, the world witnessed a turning point. Ukraine's government, leaning toward closer ties with the European Union, faced protests that escalated into a revolution. The pro-Russian president was ousted, and a new government took power, one that looked westward. For Russia, this was unacceptable. What followed was the annexation of Crimea. Russian forces swiftly took control of the peninsula, a move that shocked the world. Crimea is not just any region, it's home to Sevastopol, a critical naval base that ensures Russia's access to the Black Sea. Losing Crimea to a pro-Western Ukraine was never an option in Moscow's eyes. But the conflict didn't stop there. Eastern Ukraine became a battlefield. Pro-Russian separatists, backed by Moscow, clashed with Ukrainian forces. The region descended into war, with thousands of lives lost and millions displaced. The world watched as Ukraine became the epicenter of a new Cold War. Why is Ukraine so valuable to Russia? The answer isn't just about geography or history. It's also about economics. Ukraine is rich in natural resources, from fertile soil to coal and minerals. Its industry has long been an integral part of the broader Soviet and now Russian economy. But more importantly, Ukraine's energy infrastructure is crucial. Consider this: a significant portion of Europe's natural gas comes from Russia, and much of it flows through Ukrainian pipelines. Controlling, or at least influencing Ukraine ensures that Russia maintains leverage over Europe's energy supply. It's not just about money, it's about power. The ability to turn off the gas in winter gives Russia immense influence over European politics. However, there's another layer to this story. It's not just about land or resources, it's about identity. Russia's leadership, especially under President Vladimir Putin, sees Ukraine's drift toward the West as a direct threat to Russian culture and influence. Putin has repeatedly stated that Russians and Ukrainians are one people bound by shared history and culture. To him, the idea of Ukraine joining NATO or the European Union feels like a betrayal, as if Ukraine is abandoning its historical ties with Russia. But for many Ukrainians, the story is different. For them, the desire to align with the West is about freedom, democracy, and self-determination. It's about breaking free from Russia's shadow and charting their own course. This clash of identities, East versus West, Russia versus Ukraine, lies at the heart of the conflict. Let's shift our focus to domestic politics. Russia's actions in Ukraine are not just about foreign policy, they're also about maintaining control at home. By framing the conflict as a defense of Russian-speaking people, or as a fight against Western encroachment, Russia's leadership rallies nationalist sentiment. It's a way to strengthen domestic support and distract from internal issues like economic challenges or political dissent. Imagine a narrative where Russia is the protector of its people, standing up against a hostile West. It's a powerful message, one that resonates with many Russians who feel their country is under siege. And in this narrative, Ukraine becomes the stage where Russia defends its honor and its future. Yet the cost of this conflict is staggering. Thousands have died and millions have been displaced. The war has devastated communities and scarred generations. And still, the struggle continues, with no clear end in sight. So why does Russia want Ukraine? It's about history, geography, and power. It's about identity and pride, but most of all, it's about control. Control over a nation that has long been seen as a cornerstone of Russian influence. Control over resources, borders, and narratives. And control over the future of a region that sits at the center of global geopolitics. As the world watches, the stakes remain high. Ukraine's fate is more than a regional issue, it's a symbol of the ongoing struggle between authoritarianism and democracy, between past empires and future aspirations. And in this struggle, the question remains, will Ukraine be allowed to choose its own destiny, or will it remain a pawn in a larger game of power? Thank you for joining us on this journey through one of today's most pressing conflicts. If you found this exploration insightful, remember to like, share, and subscribe to inspire the vision. Stay tuned for more in-depth stories that shape our world. Together, let's continue to explore, learn, and inspire.